Hey everyone, I'm giving away this walnut burl in blue opal ring. All you have to do is comment a number between 1 and 3,000 and check back Wednesday to see if you won. In this video, we're going to use these celluloid sheets to create two rings similar to the style from the game Portal, and we're going to put them on these two tungsten cores. And also, we're going to make these rings glow in the dark by using some orange and blue glow powder. We're going to do most of the fastening with thin and thick cyanoacrylate, and we're going to clear coat with Illumi UV. I've had a lot of people ask me what these sheets are and where I get them. You may recognize them, but it's celluloid, and what it's most commonly used for is guitar picks. You can buy it in sheets, and it is a really interesting plastic that has a lot of strength and durability. But what we're doing here is cutting out the strips, and like most plastics, you don't have to actually cut all the way through. You just score, and then you can just crack the piece off. But once we get these two strips, we're going to use some 100 grit sandpaper to scuff the back really well so that whenever we glue it up to our bands, we get a really strong grip. So we have to cut these celluloid strips to an appropriate size to fit around the circumference of this tungsten band. So we need to measure. You could just use a measuring tape, but I like to just use a little piece of paper and then mark it. And then we can just use this as a cutting guide for when we're shaping the bands. Now I can use this guide to cut it to the right length. I like to add a little bit more from the measured length, just so that if I need to, I can give a little extra space there. So we want to shape the epoxy strip into a circle so that we can fit it around the tungsten band. The easiest way to do this, I've found, is with steam. So what we're going to do is just make a cast out of a socket and some electrical tape, and we'll put the plastic in there, scuff side down, and then pull the tape around really tight. And then what this will do is put pressure on the plastic, and while it's in a steamer, it'll heat it up and it'll take the shape of the socket. It only takes about a minute to heat these up, so after they're nice and warm, you can pull them out of the steamer and drop them in some cool water. So now I want to attach the tungsten to this piece of celluloid, but I also want to put the glow powder between the two. So what I decided to do was just make a little cast here, and then I'm going to fill this completely with glow powder and force the tungsten band down into it. And that'll give like a really even distribution of the powder, because it's so thin that I was having a hard time doing this any other way. But what we'll do is we'll just get it in there, and then we'll remove all the excess powder, and then pour a little thin CA between the two, and that'll make a really hard mortar that'll hold them together. With all that excess glow powder removed, we can add the thin CA to hold the two bands together. I feel pretty good about using this method just because the thin CA will go all the way through this powder like pretty quickly, and suspending anything in CA glue like this makes a really strong bond. So the orange blank is nearly done, and now we just gotta do the blue one. I did learn a little bit from doing the orange. What I did is I cut that excess cardstock out from around the band and also cut a hole in the bottom of it before I even put the glow powder in. And I figured that would just make it a lot easier to get all that excess out of there. Now all I have to do to finish the ring blanks is sand them down until the celluloid is flush with the tungsten. Once that's done, we can put them on the lathe and turn them to shape. So now we can put them on the lathe and turn them to shape. Once we do this, we're gonna take a little steel wool and buff them really well, and then that'll have them ready for the Illuma UV. But we're gonna also mix in a little bit of that glow powder, like I said, and give these a nice sheen that'll make them glow in the dark. I put a lot of thought into the way I wanted this glow powder to look. I didn't want it just to be a uniform covering, I wanted to have some direction. So what I did was just add a little bit of the glow powder and Illuma UV mixed together, and then I, by hand, went diagonally across the band left to right and then right to left. just to kind of give it like a streak when it was glowing in the dark, because I didn't want it just to be, you know, bands of glow powder around it. I think that would look a little odd. I thought this would just give it a different look, and I was pretty satisfied with it when it actually came out. Now that I have the glow powder on both bands and I have it shaped the way I want, I'm going to cure them in the UV bath for about 20 minutes. Then I'm going to take them out and we're going to buff it a little bit. We're just going to scuff it up with some 800 grit sandpaper before we put the clear coat on, and that'll just give a really good grip. When you're putting a clear coat on something you're turning like this, you have to make sure you work from the center out, because it's going to pull the clear coat back to the center of the band. And Illuma UV is so thick that you really are going to be shaping it the whole time you're turning it. And you want to make sure you're getting, you know, an even coat on the top and the sides, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a really odd bead in the center that's going to be pretty noticeable. So I did another coat of clear, and then I put them in the UV bath for 20 minutes, and now they're totally done. They look great. I actually like the glow powder on the outside because it kind of breaks up those hard lines on the celluloid. So I'm going to show you the glow in the dark version now. The camera didn't really show how bright they were, because they actually looked a lot brighter in person than they did on camera. The photo showed that better, but I think maybe just next time I'll use a better quality glow powder. You know, that orange is actually kind of green, but you know, I'm pretty satisfied with the way the streaks came out too that I was going for. I mean, I think it was worth doing that by hand. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and check in on Wednesday to see if you won that drawing.